Welcome to the special edition of Cronkite News. I'm Devin Henry. Thank you for joining us. We have a dedicated group of reporters covering public policy, law enforcement, the courts, and our state legislature. Here are some of our stories from our government and justice beat.
The District 8 race has several women vying for the U.S. House seat. Tyler Fingert is in our broadcast center with a look at the trend that has more women on the ballot this year.
Arizona is a leader when it comes to women in politics, with the state legislature made up of 40% women. But the story is different on the national level.
As of today, I am a candidate for the United States Senate for Arizona.
I'm ready to get to Washington and serve us all.
It's a trend that's hard not to notice. Women in potentially record numbers running for political office.
I think this is a chance to really show how new blood and new ideas and women can shine in politics and in Washington, D.C.
Kelly Ward is hoping to be the first female senator from the Grand Canyon state.
I think it's great that women are breaking those glass ceilings, but I don't want to make it all about, hey, we need the best woman for the job. We need the best person for the job. We need the best representative for the job.
But some candidates, whether they admit it or not, are making their gender part of the discussion.
I'm a fighter pilot, and I talk like one. That's why I told Washington Republicans to grow a pair of ovaries and get the job done.
Representative Martha McSally is also running for Arizona's open Senate seat. So is Representative Kirsten Sinema. There are men in the race, like controversial former Sheriff Joe Arpaio, but it's the number of women that are raising some eyebrows.
I think it's a story. I mean, you have 3 of the 4 major candidates in running for the U.S. Senate are women. I don't think that happens very often.
Kim Fritkin is an Arizona State University political science professor who co-authored a book called The Changing Face of Representation.
Having women in powerful positions in government actually mobilizes other women and makes them feel more engaged.
It's not just happening in Arizona. Women are seeking office across the country. According to the Center for American Women and Politics, 50 female Senate candidates have filed or are likely to file for the midterm elections this year, up from 40 in 2016.
The national movement, the Women's March, the Me Too movement, I think that's all feeding into mobilizing women to run for political office.
Allegations of sexual harassment are shaking up the political field, including here in Arizona. Former Congressman Trent Franks resigned after allegations of inappropriate conduct that led to an investigation, allowing women to step up and run for office.
I believe that elected officials who abuse the system and hurt other people through sexual harassment or sexual abuse have lost their privilege to serve, and they should resign.
Women lawmakers in Washington are a small minority, making up only 20% of Congress, but the energy is changing at the local level.
We have the highest number of women serving in the entire country in any state legislative chamber.
Kimberly Yee is the Arizona Senate Majority Leader. She says she was inspired to get into politics when in 1998, all 5 of the state's top offices were held by women.
I have been a long advocate for encouraging young women to not only get involved civically in their local jurisdictions, but also to encourage them to be leaders in their communities.
And while some of the women we talk to are running against each other, they understand the significance of winning.
I think women have to see women running to be inspired to do that, and the more who run, the more it just sort of self-perpetuates the excitement in women getting involved.
A desire for change, pushing more women into politics. If Republican Debbie Lesko wins the primary tonight, we could be looking at an all-female lineup when it comes to Election Day in April. In the broadcast center, Tyler Fingert, Cronkite News.
Today, Dick's Sporting Goods announced that it will immediately stop selling assault-style firearms in high-capacity magazines. Cronkite News reporter Jake Epley says Arizona residents had strong reactions to this announcement.
Of the customers we talked to, some Arizona residents say they fully support Dick's Sporting Goods' announcement to ban assault-style weapons from their shelves.
It's one of the first news items I saw, and I felt like finally something might happen, that the winds could be shifting, and that somebody is paying attention to the poor students in Florida and in so many other places where these horrible assaults have gone on, and we need to put a stop to it.
Joan Dupnick said she plans to come back and support the chain any chance she gets.
I'll probably come by here more often, knowing that they are interested in the safety of our young people.
In 2012, after the Sandy Hook shooting, Dick's Sporting Goods took out assault rifles from all of their locations, eventually bringing them back into their Fields and Streams locations.
But gun rights activists said the retail giant will only turn off its customer base. Many Arizona residents called for a boycott.
It could be made up by those that are in favor of what Dick's Sporting Goods is doing, and they may go there to purchase other sporting goods items. So it's hard to say if it's truly going to be a net positive or a net negative for them, but I think it'll definitely reduce firearm sales for sure.
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that this is finally going to be the thing that will turn the country around and make us see that we do not need assault weapons in the hands of people that don't deserve to have them and can't handle them.
In Tempe, Jake Epley, Cronkite News.
Dick's Sporting Goods has 9 Arizona locations. CEO Edward Stack says he supports the Second Amendment, but they felt that they had to take action against gun violence. The company also asked lawmakers to enact what they called common sense gun reform.
Governor Doug Ducey has said Arizona will not have sanctuary cities, and the Phoenix City Council also has rejected citizen petitions to become one. But a series of immigration raids in Los Angeles shows just how divisive the issue can be. Reporter Micah Bledsoe is live in our LA bureau with the details.
Though California's sanctuary law bars state and local police from cooperating with U.S. immigration authorities, a recent 5-day federal immigration sweep led to the arrest of more than 200 undocumented immigrants.
Don Rosenberg has been fighting against illegal immigration since his 25-year-old son, Drew, was struck and killed on his motorcycle in 2010 by a Honduran immigrant who entered the country illegally and later was granted temporary immigration status.
But what the state has done is said, we're going to protect those people. So when they let them out, the only thing that ICE can do is sweeps. And when they do that, it puts citizens at risk, it puts ICE agents at risk, and unfortunately, it puts those people here illegally that are trying to be, good people, it puts them at risk.
Last week, President Trump said he's considering withdrawing ICE agents from the Golden State.
I mean, frankly, if I wanted to pull our people from California, you would have a crime nest like you've never seen in California.
Rosenberg hopes Trump and the U.S. Justice Department will do what state and local police have not. But Rabbi Aryeh Cohen says he and several other groups will not stop working for undocumented residents in L.A. and other parts of the state.
ICE is not a police force, and so they don't have the same power of warrant that police forces do.
Cohen says ICE raids not only tear families apart, but also leave people in fear.
So when people live in fear, they no longer go out, they no longer come to church, they no longer go to cultural gatherings. There are rippling waves of impact of both detention and also the threat of detention.
Rabbi Cohen says he and members of Clue Justice will continue to plan demonstrations of solidarity. In Los Angeles, Micah Bledsoe, Cronkite News.
Answering just one call can save a life. In honor of Black History Month, reporter Imani Stevens follows Captain Courtney Jenkins with the Phoenix Fire Department to tell us about his call to service.
A lot of the calls we go on don't end up in a good way.
Captain Courtney Jenkins did not expect a career in firefighting.
So I went to the police department first, went through their process, and I guess I scared them. They thought maybe I was a little too dangerous, so they sent me to the fire department. Experience is not something you can read. You have to live it.
When the call comes in, Captain Jenkins and other firefighters have to put on all of this gear, weighing at around 60 pounds. But often, the challenges faced on the job weighs more than the gear.
Sometimes the first and the people who kind of give people exposure to your culture.
In 1994, the Affinity Group was established, naming themselves after James Wesley Robinson, the first Black firefighter with the Phoenix Fire Department. Robinson joined in 1953, not only making history, but breaking barriers.
Numbers are few here.
Captain Jenkins says that J.W. Robinson was not only strong physically, but in his character.
When he first came to the station, one of his stations, that he would sit out back to eat, and The other guy sat inside. You're talking about in the 60s. So eventually, over time, one guy's come out there and sit with him and eat. Next you know, 2 guys are out there sitting with him and eating. The next you know, the whole crew is out there, and they finally looked at each other and went, this is stupid, why are we sitting outside?
Captain Jenkins joined the force 2 years after Robinson's death, but Robinson's strength lives through Captain Jenkins.
I'm gonna run until I can no longer run. Then I'm gonna walk. And then when I can't walk, I'll crawl. And then when I can't crawl, I'll fall. But I'm gonna fall facing the direction of trying to do something, get something done. We have to be at our best, we don't have a choice.
Captain Jenkins says he lives by the motto, it's better to give than to receive.
Public service is just my path.
A path that will soon be changing direction. Captain Jenkins plans to retire this September from the Phoenix Fire Department after 26 years of service. In Phoenix, Imani Stevens, Cronkite News.
Scottsdale is growing and there are plans to make it better for residents, but some are complaining the luxury is pricing out some residents.
And we're not going to start charging for parking downtown.
While parking may stay the same in downtown Scottsdale, the rest of the city will be seeing some major changes throughout the next few years. Community leaders gathered today to discuss upcoming developments and construction projects, including new restaurants and office spaces at Scottsdale Fashion Square, a proposed new facility for Scottsdale Stadium, and pathways that connect the different neighborhoods of downtown Scottsdale.
We need to rope it all together. I think we can all agree that so much change and growth has happened, but it's time to really link it all together, create a better sense of walkability.
With many luxury developments popping up across Scottsdale, the panel was questioned to see if affordable housing could be brought to places like Old Town Scottsdale.
So if we truly wanted to see affordable housing in some of these areas, the only way to achieve that, because of the cost of the land, the cost of construction, is to go higher. And I think there would be a resistance to that.
Carter Unger, president of Spring Creek Development, and Scott Nelson, senior vice president of real estate services for Mesa Ridge, which operates Scottsdale Fashion Square, say they do not have plans to build affordable housing at this time.
Since 2010, downtown Scottsdale has seen a 28% growth in population.
Vermont Senator and former presidential candidate Bernie Sanders also addressed gun control. He spoke to a crowd of over 1,000 here in Arizona. Reporter Imani Stevens recaps the rally.
Senator Bernie Sanders made his return to Phoenix at the Orpheum Theater to rally Arizonans.
People in Arizona, people in Vermont can't make it on $9 or $10 an hour. That's why we're going to raise that minimum wage to $15 an hour.
And that's not the only piece of legislation he is pushing. With the recent mass shooting, Senator Sanders says it's time to end the sale and distribution of assault weapons.
That assault weapons are the military weapons designed for one purpose alone, and that is to kill human beings. In Las Vegas, a few months ago, when 58 people were killed and 500 wounded in a very short period of time by one person.
Reducing gun violence means banning assault weapons.
Protesters outside the rally had a different approach to gun control. Ben Burkham says it's not about the guns.
They've never shot anybody. A gun is not an assault weapon unless you use it to assault with. So we're saying no gun control, put God back in our country.
Sanders wrapped up his speech with a call for unity.
Regardless of whether we're black or white or Latino, whether we're gay or straight, male or female, let us come together and demand a government that represents all of us, not just the billionaire class.
In Phoenix, Imani Stevens, Cronkite News.
Congressman Ruben Gallego said that Sanders' appearance recognizes that Arizona is a swing state in 2020 and that Arizona voters can make a difference when it comes to the makeup of Congress in the upcoming midterm elections.
Why don't more Native American Arizonans show up at the polls? Reporter Michaela Moorhead shows us how the Maricopa County Elections Department is reaching out to this group to encourage them to vote.
Still, the numbers are lacking in getting the vote out for Native people.
With the 2018 elections right around the corner, the Maricopa County elections want more people casting a ballot. But Native Americans still face challenges when voting. Many people met at the Native American Community Service Center to discuss solutions. Shannon Rivers, a member of Gila River Indian Community, says Native Americans struggle to understand the issue of voting.
12,000 people that live in our community, maybe about 60% of them have the opportunity to vote, and out of those, only about probably 1,500 to 12, maybe 2,000 at the most vote.
Also discuss lack of trust in the government, language barriers, and access issues are just some of the challenges Native Americans deal with. Adrian Fontes, Maricopa County Recorder, says he understands the barriers Native Americans face when voting, but still encourages them to go out and vote.
It's one of the fundamental rights of being an American, citizen, and we cherish it, and we'd like to preserve it. And the more people that do it, the better chances we have of those rights being preserved.
Although Rivers agrees Native American voter turnout needs to increase, he believes there are better ways of accomplishing this goal.
Right now, we're looking at only two parties, the Democrat and the Republicans. Isn't there something else? There has to be something else. For Native rights and Native people in this country, the United States and Canada, and I would imagine throughout this Western Hemisphere, their rights have been limited by political and government states.
In Phoenix, Michaela Moorhead, Cronkite News.
Amidst a national debate on gun control, teenagers have been the ones to take a stand. Today, reporter Emily Richardson followed Arizona teenagers as they shadowed state lawmakers at the Capitol to discuss issues that affect them and learn the inner process of passing a law.
Kyle Simpson is a student at Tempe High. His favorite subject is history. He wants to become a teacher, and today he shadowed a lawmaker to learn more about the government.
Yeah, I didn't realize how many times they get together and how much they talk about in one sitting, so that was really crazy.
But that's not all Kyle came to do. Kyle and his fellow students in Peer Solution put together a plan to help prevent gun violence.
We're seeking to kind of stop some of these deaths before they happen. Like, even if we can stop just one, then like it's worth it.
Got these kids to come up with 4 strategies right now that they have that they really want to promote with the legislators to prevent gun violence.
They decided this issue was important to bring to Arizona lawmakers after seeing the aftermath of the Parkland shooting.
Even when they heard the Parkland kids talking, they said, well, that's what we've been doing forever, like that's what we do. And I said, yeah, and you see it works.
Kyle was assigned to Senator Juan Mendez, who believes events like this are important in helping progress our government.
I feel like we have the problem of to where we're actually breeding, if not enforcing, apathy when we don't include the youth in what we're doing.
Peer Solutions is working with lawmakers to make Shadow Your Legislature Day an annual event. In Phoenix, Emily Richardson, Cronkite News.
Rape, economic struggles, and physical health concerns are just some of the reasons why a woman could seek an abortion. However, under Arizona Senate Bill 1394, a woman would be required to disclose those reasons to a doctor prior to receiving that abortion. Reporter Sydney Eisenberg was at a Planned Parenthood press conference and shows us how the organization believes this bill could actually harm Arizona women.
I would have gone home and tried to figure it out on my own. I would not have stopped until I was no longer pregnant.
Serena Knierim received an abortion from Planned Parenthood. Her reason for the abortion? She says it's none of your business. However, under Arizona Senate Bill 1394, doctors would be required to ask women their reason for their abortion.
The questions pretty much put the government between you and your doctor. It asks really invasive questions about the reasons of why you're seeking the abortion care procedure you've already decided on.
According to the bill, some of the reasons for an abortion would include economic reasons, relationship issues, if the pregnancy was a result of rape or incest, or if the woman does not want children at this time. Under the list of reasons, the woman could refuse to answer. However, Knierim says this could cause women to distrust their doctor.
The right to refuse, is coupled with its own agenda.
But Kathy Herod from the Center for Arizona Policy thinks this bill will make it easier to acquire data about abortions in our state. We spoke to her about the bill last month.
So it's simply trying to define better why women are having an abortion, exactly what complications may be occurring from abortions, and that will enable, regardless where you are on the issue of abortion, but policymakers, healthcare professionals, pro-life and pro-choice people to better meet the needs of women.
Knierim is worried about what this bill could do for Arizona women. If she was asked for a reason, it could have had deadly consequences.
Bills like this, when presented to scared people, they can really do a lot of harm. I don't know that I would be alive today. I would have walked out, gone home, tried to research, and possibly harmed myself because I was not going to be pregnant for a second time.
In Phoenix, Sydney Eisenberg, Cronkite News.
The bill was passed by the Senate and House Federalism, Property Rights, and Public Policy Committee. It's scheduled to be heard by the House Judiciary Committee tomorrow.
Uber has suspended its self-driving cars across the valley and in several other cities after a pedestrian was hit in Tempe overnight and later died of her injuries. It's believed to be the first fatality in the nation involving a fully autonomous car. Cronkite News reporter Nicole Gutierrez is tracking the details.
The National Transportation Board Safety Board is now tracking what happened last night. Tempe police say the SUV struck 49-year-old Elaine Herzberg. She was not at the crosswalk when this accident happened. She was on Mill Avenue, south of Curry. There was a driver behind the wheel, but he was acting as a safeguard as the car was in self-driving mode. Uber said it's fully cooperating with investigators in Tempe. The company tweeting out a statement, "Our hearts go out to the victim's family." For self-driving cars, dealing with pedestrians and bicyclists is a challenging task. The self-driving industry has found quicker success with highway driving, which is a less complicated environment. Uber has previously grounded its vehicles while investigating a crash. In 2017, Uber briefly pulled its vehicles from roads after an Uber self-driving vehicle in Tempe landed on its side. Arizona is a hotbed of self-driving car development. Earlier this month, Arizona Governor Doug Ducey updated an executive order to allow self-driving cars to drive on state roads without a test driver behind the wheel. We reached out to Governor Doug Ducey's office for comment on the incident, in which they stated they're aware of the accident and their prayers are with the victim. They also stated, "Our office is in communication with law enforcement. Public safety is our top priority, and the governor's latest executive order provides enhanced enforcement measures and clarity on responsibility in these actions." Now, this isn't the first time a futuristic car is involved in a fatal car accident. In 2016, a man was driving a Tesla, and the Tesla was put on autopilot. Now, the feature in this Tesla vehicle doesn't mean it's self-driving completely. The driver still has to drive the car. In Phoenix, Nicole Gutierrez, Cronkite News.
This comes as community leaders are responding to Governor Doug Ducey's Safe Arizona Schools plan.
Reporter Emily Richardson spoke with two activists about why they think the proposed plan doesn't go far enough.
Community activists Jennifer Longden and Lawrence Robinson have been working together on ending gun violence for more than a decade now. But for Longden, a survivor of gun violence, this issue is personal.
13 years ago, I was shot in a random shooting. I was in a car with my fiance. We were ambushed in a random shooting, pulling into a taco shop. He was shot in the head, and I was shot in the back and paralyzed.
Jennifer Longden and Lawrence Robinson say that gun violence is a main concern for their community. And while Governor Doug Ducey's plan is a good first step, the state of Arizona needs to take bigger steps towards a solution.
I think the governor himself and all of us know that it doesn't go far enough. You can't compromise with kids' lives.
My 12-year-old son was ripped out of his warm bed at 10:30 at night and brought to a trauma room. He was so brave and so scared. Our children should never have to be that brave or that afraid, and adults need to step up and be responsible and fearless and get this done.
Both Robinson and Longden are currently running for public office. Their proposed plan has 8 parts that they believe could help prevent gun violence without disrupting Second Amendment rights. To them, gun violence isn't a partisan issue. It's a community one.
If this is just a story about what happens here in the Capitol behind us, then we lose the reality that the real story is happening in our streets and neighborhoods.
That together we can work to help end this for our communities overall.
Robinson says the best way for Arizonans to show their support for gun reform is to make their opinions heard by attending events such as the March for Our Lives happening this coming Saturday. Emily Richardson, Cronkite News.
A recent decision by President Trump's administration will have an impact on the mining industry. Reporter Megan Meyer takes us to the Capitol to discuss this change with those who are directly affected.
Members of Arizona's mining community gathered at the Capitol.
The event is really to promote the mining industry and what it does for its communities both locally and globally.
Currently, 65% of the nation's copper is mined in Arizona. Minerals such as copper contribute heavily to the manufacture of everyday items such as cell phones, computers, and motor vehicles. But producing these materials comes at a cost. Over 40,000 jobs are generated by the mining industry here in AZ, but the environmental impact of the field has always been a concern. Back in late November, President Trump's administration announced that they will no longer require mining groups to prove that they have set aside the financial means for cleanup. This was a requirement under the Obama administration. The EPA says state and federal rules already address this issue, and the companies we spoke with didn't think the regulation rollback would be a problem.
All of the companies that I dealt with in the 36 years I've been in the industry have always been responsible in that regard, and will continue to be.
Many expressed that their company's plans to remain environmentally friendly will not waver.
We pride ourselves as being stewards of the areas where we mine, and so I can't see where it would largely impact our company in the way we do things, because I believe we strive to do the right thing regardless of what the law requires.
In Phoenix, Megan Meyer, Cronkite News.
Thanks for joining us on this special edition of Cronkite News. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.